YouTube, it's SpykeVampyre, and I am making a video. Hooray for overdue videos. I said I'd post them over the weekend, and I didn't. A little bit busier than I thought I was going to be. So, I found some time today, out of my busy school life, because I have no homework for tomorrow. Hey! And, so I decided to make a video on patrons, the subject of patron gods and goddesses. I have received more questions about that than anything. So I'm going to do that first. So I have a couple other videos besides this. I've already talked about patrons a little bit in a video to Haku Rogue ages and ages and ages ago. I think it was in February, so that's ages and ages now. And it was basic. It's about my patrons, specifically Apollo and Aphrodite. I gave my kind of stories. I'd like to go and kind of give a more general kind of overview so you can all adapt it to your lives. In pagan religions, and Wicca especially, you feel like a little separation because it doesn't need to be there. You have patron and matron, god and goddess, respectively. Patron comes from Latin pater, meaning father. Matron comes from mater, meaning mother. The reason being, we believe that they are our ancient ancestors, therefore our mother and father, just as mater pater. If you're referring to them as a set, most people use patrons, or patron and matron. Anyway. So, you have these patron and matron goddesses, and the thing with that is, I always like to explain that it's the archetypes which you, in your religious experience, qualify as one from a pantheon that calls to you the most. Now, that might be a little bit hard to understand, but basically, in my personal experience, Apollo, in various experiences, which I elaborated on in my old video, called out to me. Now, it could very well have been Horus, because Horus is also very closely associated with Apollo. But I study Greek mythology a lot more, and it seemed a little bit more, I guess, relevant to me being in the Greek. Same thing with Aphrodite. It could have very well have been, like, isn't the Egyptian love goddess Hathor? Right, I think. I'm so bad with my Egyptian now. But anyway, it could have very well been her. Again, parallels. There's parallels with all that kind of archetypical kind of things. It could have been Freya. Freya's associated with love, I think. I'm so bad with different pantheons now because I've been using the Greek for so long. So it could very well be some other god or goddess. Now, I chose to qualify them because in my religious experience, I work with the Greek, with the Hellenistic ideas, the Greco-Roman traditions, and I prefer to use the Greek names rather than the Roman names, because the Roman names are all planets, and I like their more personal kind of sounding names. Now, how you find them, because that's my question I get the most, is how do you find this patron and this matron? And it comes to you in various sorts of ways. I, for instance, had them in a kind of a dream or a meditative state, more in trance and kind of a psychic thing. Others kind of get symbols that they interpret in their life, like you might see black cats consistently but never have any bad luck, and it might possibly be Bast calling out to you, or other ones associated with cats, Artemis, Freya, things like that. You might be seeing, like, I don't know, let's say you were taking archery in gym class, and you just picked it up instinctively and knew how to do it. Maybe that's Apollo calling out to you, or Artemis, or somebody like that. It's kind of all speculation in that kind of sense, but, oh well. It's just kind of And a third way that a lot of people do to find it is they ancestor worship. Now, ancestor worship is probably the oldest worship ever. Everybody has like this hearth spirit kind of thing, where you would revere your ancestors. In the Chinese culture, it's still commonly done in restaurants. They have little shrines to their ancestors. Think of Dia de los Muertos as about ancestors. So it's a worship to your ancestors because, like I said, they are our oldest ancestors. So you're trying to get back to the roots, so you go progressively back with worshiping your ancestors. Also, there's a difference between physical lineage, physical ancestors, and spiritual lineage, spiritual ancestors. Because the goddess and god could theoretically be both. But it's more in a spiritual sense. So you do some ancestor worship, and all of a sudden you might find it calling out to you. You might just get this epiphany, like, oh my god, Aphrodite. So, things like that. Now, a lot of people just kind of pick the god and goddess that they happen to like the most and call them the patron and matron, which is fine if you're starting out, but it's so much better if you do that whole search in nature, through the ancestor worship, through meditations, dream interpretations, analysis like that, to find that which you really need. Another thing, you might find yourself expressing the qualities associated with that god or goddess. I know Apollo and I seem to have a lot in common, and I'm not going to go into all that because that would take a lot of explaining. So, you might have that kind of link where it's just like, it seems almost like a lineage in the physical sense. So that's how you go about finding them. Now, how you go about revering them is all up to you. Some people kind of feel like you should revere the divine within yourself, for that is the ultimate realization of the divine without. I like that. That's cool. You know, thou art God, thou art goddess. Do what you will. Some people set up altars and shrines to them, give offering in form of libation, form of stones or shells or other objects that they consecrate to them. They do rituals specifically on feast days for them. They reenact the mythologies. They do the research. Know your patron and your matron like inside and out, like the back of your hand. My hair is not going to cooperate. Know it like the back of your hand, because knowing the mythology is like knowing where you came from. It's your personal history, in a sense, if you believe the ancestors aspect of it. Now, people then ask me, well, how do I find all this? Wikipedia. Go to your library, do some research in books. The internet's a wonderful resource, so go do your research in your mythologies. Get some Greek mythology, Roman, whatever you will. If you're just starting out on your path, don't stress about not knowing who they are. Because, in all honesty, you don't know who you are yet. So, you don't necessarily have to know who your patron and matron are. Look inside of yourself before you look outside. That's know thyself, is all I'm saying there. Now, another thing that people ask me is like, well, how it's a communing thing. How do I talk to them? Is there like a talking to? Well, I'm a pantheist polytheist, so nature and gods are this. So they're kind of around. So I do it in a ritual setting, and I go in and I chant to them, and I try to feel a presence. It's all about a presence. It's all about a link. And it's just like normal prayer, like you would do if you were Christian, you're talking to God, whatever, but it's more of an active role than that. But they will give you, trust me, when they want to talk to you, if there's something that they want to tell you, symbols and things that they're trying to give you guidance on, they will let you know. It might not be painfully obvious, but it's there. They give you guidance, subtle guidance every day. That's the highest form of recognizing the divinity in you, is knowing that they are your ancestors, that is where you came from, and that is where we're all going. So, I think that was a pretty good video on the subject of patrons. If you have any other questions about patrons, or of any other topic, feel free to send me a message or leave me a comment. And I'm going to try to pop out a couple more videos today because I have the time. So, peace out everybody, and stay tuned. Blessed be.